Hello and welcome to the Field Guides. I'm Bill and I'm here with Steve. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, Bill.
And we're also here with Sandy. Good morning, Sandy.
Good morning.
And what we're going to do today is give you the experience of what it's like to be in the woods, in the field, and on the trail. Each episode, Steve and I pick a natural history topic, research the science behind that topic, and then take you out to a natural spot and share with you everything that we've learned. But today, it's going to be a little different. Today is a rare interview episode. And longtime listeners of the podcast, they'll recognize the name Sandy Geffner. Because Steve and I regularly mention Sandy's name, talking about things we've done in the past, experiences we've had, how we started on our nature-loving journey.
Yeah.
And we finally pinned Sandy down, and he agreed to take us on a walk through the woods, talk a little bit about his background, what he does, what he's done, and just give people an idea of what it's like to live a naturalist's life.
Right.
And before we get into that, we should tell people where we're at, because we're going to forget if we don't do it now.
Yeah, and everything I know about it is the name. J.P. Nicely?
J.P. Nicely.
Is there more to that name?
Well, it's the J.P. Nicely Memorial Park. We have done some episodes here before.
The last time we ran into Earth Spirit was here.
That's right.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite places to do an episode because it is right around the corner from my house. And this is a small town park. When you pull into it, you see baseball diamonds, you see pickleball courts, but it's one of the best kept secrets I feel in this area, because if you go past those courts and down into the woods, there is a beautiful patch of forest. There's some old growth trees in there. There's a beautiful creek with a swimming hole. My daughter and my family, we spend a lot of time here. We just were down in that swimming hole last week. And I know that, Sandy, you enjoy coming here as well.
I certainly do. I bring classes from Earth Spirit here, and I also bring classes from the University at Buffalo here, where I've been teaching with both for more than 45 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
And your environmental education group, Earth Spirit, they often utilize this spot, so much so that Daniel, our former co-host, used to say, man, I wish we could do programs somewhere else besides JP Nicely. Daniel's laughing somewhere as he's listening to this.
By the way, is this some kind of nepotism guest type situation? Because you're on the board, Daniel, our former co-host, worked for Earth Spirit, and I guess I'm the one furthest out, but
That's right.
I've done some volunteering and
There's
took
just a
Sandy's
lot
courses.
of interbreeding in the Western New York environmental
Yeah.
community, right? Figuratively speaking.
Yeah.
All right. So when we first approached Sandy about doing an interview, and you want to walk a little
Let's
bit,
move
Steve?
in, just
All right.
because there's some wind on the edge of the forest here.
Gotcha. So when we first approached Sandy, and it was kind of shocking to me when the idea popped in my head, because we've talked about Sandy so much. I don't know why we haven't had Sandy on the podcast before, but when I approached you about it, what's wrong?
My phone is quacking.
Oh, I thought there was actually a duck flying over. It was funny because Sandy seemed a little unsure about how this would go, and I explained, we're going to sit down, ask you about your background, what you do, how you ended up doing what you're doing. And your response, I don't know if you remember, you said, and people would be interested in that? I said, of course. So we did do an interview before with a long time ago with a naturalist named Gordon Maupin. I don't know if you recognize the name. He was a naturalist in Ohio based at the Wilderness Center.
I will say it's a very good episode, but at the time of recording, his podcast no longer exists.
That's right. That's right.
So,
But I went back and listened to that episode just to get, some ideas for how this episode might go. And Jerry Rising, you know Jerry Rising,
Yes.
former columnist for the Buffalo News, wrote the Nature Watch column, well-known birder in this area. He's been on the podcast.
we have an episode with him.
Unfortunately, he passed away, but he left a comment on that episode, the Gordon Maupin episode, and said, best episode yet.
I completely missed that.
I know, I forgot
Wow.
about that. So people, yes, they are interested in our interview episodes. So, all right, so we are here in the woods. We are entering kind of a second growth forest here. We are in a former plantation. We got some red pines standing tall in rows around us, and this is a good spot. Sandy, could you describe your job? What is it that you do for the audience?
Well, I'm an interpreter. I'm a naturalist. I'm an environmental educator. I'm a field ecologist. I'm a teacher, and I've been doing this my entire adult life. And like so many, yourselves included, we just bring places like this to life for others. We speak for these trees just like the Lorax does. And we speak for the animals, and we speak for the systems. And it's our job to share this awareness, share this understanding, and in doing so, enhance appreciation. That's what our work is all about. Because when people appreciate, they care. And if they care, they'll take good care of these places and the life within them. That's what we do. That's what I do. We all hold hands doing the same. And that's the beauty of it.
So right now you're doing this in two main ways, right? Through Earth Spirit, the Environmental Education Group, and then through your work at UB. Could you tell the audience a little bit about UB and what you do there at the University of Buffalo, folks?
Well, sure. I've been at UB since the late 70s. It's probably about 46 years now. I started as an adjunct professor doing a variety of field-based courses. And over time, in the 90s, I took on a full-time position there. And I've been coordinating the environmental studies program there since. And so my work through the years has been focused upon experiential learning, which means I've been doing coursework. I do the advisement for people in our program. And I also coordinate our internship program and lead our ecology expeditions. So this is what I've been doing at UB throughout all these years.
And because of your work, I think Steve and I can both say, like, we're at where we're at because of the work you were doing at UB. Like, I'm sure I've told you before, but when I was at UB in the early 90s, I was an English major, and I was taking some environmental courses just because I was interested in that, but I was planning on just graduating with an English degree, maybe becoming a writer. Kind of in the back of my head, I'd planned to move to Ireland and become a writer and get a job in a pub, and that's what I was going to do.
Wow.
But somebody, I don't even remember who it was, just casually said, "Oh, have you taken a class with Sandy Geffner?" And I'm like, "No." And they're like, "You need to take a class with Sandy before you leave here." And your field ecology class was the first one I signed up for. And that is like one of those moments where things shift in terms of the trajectory of where I was heading. I had never, in my mind, had ever dreamed I wanted to be any kind of teacher. But going out into the field with you, because you gave us so many field experiences, I had never seen someone teach that way before. I didn't even know like a naturalist was a job that you could have. It just, remember, this was before the internet, YouTube, anything like that. So my experience was limited to what my experience was. I didn't know you could be a naturalist and take people outside and teach them about stuff like that. So that really shifted things for me. And I took as many of your classes as I could. I took the ecology expedition to the Everglades. I convinced you to let me go on the Adirondack one too, because normally you didn't let people go on both because they were so popular. And then I think I've talked to you about this before, but at the end of the Everglades trip, I told you that I'd like to work for Earth Spirit, your environmental education group. Now, again, at the time, I had no teaching experience. Any group or solo presentation work I had done in classes just went horrible because I had no teaching skills at all. And you never followed up with me. And this isn't, trying to put you on the spot. And I'm sure you just had a million things going on, but in the back of my mind, over the years, I've wondered, were you just thinking, this guy can't teach? What is he? I'm not going to call this guy up. But your co-founder of Earth Spirit, Herb, just happened to run into me when I was doing my retail job. And I'd mentioned, hey, I talked to Sandy, is there a way I can work for Earth Spirit? And he kind of, rather than take me on as a teacher, he said, well, I need some help working on my barn. So he brought me in, had me working on his barn, and I kept pestering him to take me on programs. But he finally did, and then that led into me working at Earth Spirit, and that led to a job at a nature center. So just that brief conversation of someone saying, you need to take a class with Sandy Geffner. Like, I can't imagine if that conversation hadn't happened, because theoretically I could have finished my UB time and never taken one of your classes, which I'm glad it happened.
So my story is sort of similar in a way because one of Sandy's previous employees, and they weren't an employee of Sandy until after this, but she asked me to join UB's environmental network. It was an academic club, and on a whim, I was like, you know what? I'll just go. And the only reason
you were like philosophy or something.
Yeah, well, I was actually doing engineering homework at a friend of mine's club meeting, and it was like a juggling club. and they happened to know each other. This former employee, Danny, and my friend Jeff, they knew each other because they were both on the Frisbee team. She came to his club and said, hey, I do this environmental club, and if you guys want to join. And on a whim, I was like, you know what, I'm going for it. And then we started hiking a ton with the club, and even though I grew up in the woods, I have a cabin that my family owns, and everything was like a green blur to me. Like, I couldn't tell you a single tree.
Plant blindness.
To be honest, I probably couldn't even tell you what a maple was back then. Like, I was vaguely aware of them, but I wouldn't have confidence saying that something was or wasn't. And then it kind of got me much more excited about the outdoors. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a minor in environmental studies.
Yeah, that's what I did too.
Yeah, I'm going to pick up Sandy's course. Everyone told me to take it. And so I remember when Matt Candeas from In Defense of Plants, he and I were thinking about field ecology. I don't think he ever officially took it, but we wanted to prepare together because he was in the ecology department, and he was like, we don't have a class like this. We don't have like a field ecology class. So he was very excited about the idea about it. So we started preparing for your class like well ahead of time. And I remember the first thing we tried to do is key out a tree in like a Target parking lot. And it didn't go well because one, I don't even think it was in the book.
It was an ornamental.
Yeah.
But you were trying, right?
Yeah. But then taking Sandy's field ecology class, that led to you helping me get an internship with the DEC. That's where I met Chuck Rosenberg, and that friendship grew from there. And then even after I left UB, you helped me get an internship with New York State Parks and Rec. And then, I don't know, I went on the field ecology, or the ecology of unique environments in Florida, and I've done some volunteering after graduating, but, then we cross paths every now and then, but yeah. I feel like it did change the direction pretty dramatically, and then I went on to be a botanist, and then I came back for a master's and then a PhD doing genetics work, so...
if not for Sandy,
I think
we'd both probably be much wealthier at this point. But not nearly as happy.
Well, just know that the nature boy was always within both of you. And it would have come out one way or another, I suspect.
Potentially in regret, though. Like, man, I wish I became a nature guy.
Right. So that's the perfect segue, I think. So when we have people like you on the podcast, I like to ask them, like, what is your earliest memory of the out of doors, nature, making a connection?
I think the first real connection that I made was in college. I went to Cortland as an undergrad, and my time there was really about immersing myself in the natural world. I had never been in that place before, quite frankly.
You mean in Cortland, or just immersing yourself?
Anywhere, actually. I grew up on Long Island. My parents knew nothing of nature. One of the funny stories here, fellas, is that when I was in high school, we were required to take this test. I think it was called the CUDA preference test.
Oh, boy.
I'm not sure about that. But it was designed to give us some insight into what profession we might be successful in. Mm-hmm. And so I take the test, and all my friends come out as doctors and lawyers and journalists, and I come out as a forest ranger. Really the only thing I cared about at that time was playing baseball. That was it. And I come out as a forest ranger, and everybody made fun of me. And sure enough, when I got to college, going upstate really exposed me to this beautiful natural environment. And I got involved with a program that would provide me with the ability to be outdoors. And it was a program focused on nature interpretation. It was part of the recreation program at Cortland. And it trained you to be a biologist naturalist. It was wonderful. I had no idea what I would do professionally, but that seemed logical to me. And then my first real experiences was taking field ecology at Cortland. And it was offered by two professors. I took one who was an ornithologist and learned from him. And I took the other, which I wasn't supposed to do, but I really became obsessed with it.
So you took two field ecology.
I took two field ecology courses. He was a botanist.
Oh.
So their perspectives were very, very different on the coursework.
Two different courses, really.
Two different courses. And quite frankly, that hooked me. I got my field guides. Even after the classes, I would go to the sites afterwards because these professors were really old school. They were like speed demons in the woods. I was always the last one in class to catch up because when one stops, looks at a plant, I sit there and start sketching it so that I can remember. And then I would run to the next stop.
No cell phones back then.
No cell phones.
Yeah. We're lucky enough to have little point-and-shoot cameras.
Right.
The beauty of it was that it really showed me what not to do as I grew up and became a naturalist.
As a leader of people in the woods.
And that's why so many of you always scold me for going so slowly, because I only have a first gear when I'm outside.
Yeah.
These guys were on fourth gear throughout. But they introduced me to this world, and then I had to take a course in the Adirondacks for 2 weeks, and that was a real immersion into these studies.
You know, you briefly mentioned something about you going very slow when we go out to the field. I actually, in retrospect, I shouldn't say in retrospect, I enjoyed it at the time, but in retrospect, I really enjoyed it because I think it forced the group of friends that I had at the time, we just kept going back to the places that we had gone on your field trips. Or they weren't field trips, that was literally what we did for class every week. And it was, because then we just got to go on our own. You know, it's like, we got to go back. Like, we went with Sandy, we only made it 50 feet, you know, because we talked about everything along the way. But then we went back and we kind of did a similar thing, kind of. But then we just had more time to do it. Yeah. Joe Allen kind of had that effect, too, where he introduced us to a bunch of books like Duvall and Sessions and Nash and Lockwood, but he only had us read a few chapters out of it. It's like, now I got to go back and read all those books, which I don't know if everyone did, but it's kind of a similar thing with Sandy's class.
Yeah, so folks, Joe Allen is another
Earth
teacher,
Spirit person, too.
Yeah, who now leads expeditions for Earth Spirit. Used to teach at UB, still teaches at UB.
He still
Came
teaches
back
at
after
UB.
He couldn't stay away.
I was there when he retired.
He retired and he came back. Yes,
came back, yeah.
yes.
You know, I didn't even think about it. I ran into him last semester.
Oh, you did?
And
Oh, that's right.
I
You
didn't
mentioned
even, nothing clicked that he
was
shouldn't
back
have
at
been
UB,
there.
right?
So,
But it's funny because I feel like you and Joe have very different styles when you have a group of people.
For sure.
Yes, but both very beneficial for the people that get to follow each of you through the woods because you inspire people in different ways.
He's more animated.
Yes.
I'm more boring.
No. You're more peaceful.
I will say I love Joe,
Serene.
but the experience with you was much more addicting to nature, or somehow. I don't know.
It clicked with you more. Yeah.
Right. And who knows, maybe if I'd met Joe first, that might have been the formative person, but
Sure.
Sandy was sort of my formative person, sort of. Hope that's not embarrassing to say or anything.
Joe's the Ed Abbey. You're the Aldo Leopold. Right?
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have
yin
this
and the
beautiful picture of Aldo Leopold in my home right now.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes, he's one of my heroes.
Sure.
But I have to tell you, even going through college, I never had a sense for how I could turn those passions into a profession until I did my internships. So at Cortland, we were required to do 2 internships, which lasted a full semester. So we were at about 2.5 months at each one. We didn't go to classes. You're a full-time internship.
Oh, wow.
And my first internship, I worked with the DEC.
That's our Department of Environmental Conservation here in New York State, folks.
Mm-hmm.
At the Rogers Environmental Education Center in Sherburne, New York, the DEC's first environmental education center, well established. And that was my very first experience in perceiving the potential of being a naturalist, being a teacher in the field.
What did your parents think about this?
That's a good question because they never understood what I did. They would always say, my son, the conservationist.
Okay.
And I did my best to give them a sense for what I really did, but it took a very long time for them to really grasp that they raised a nature boy.
Inadvertently.
Inadvertently, absolutely.
So you did one stint at Rogers.
I did one stint at Rogers, and that gave me a sense for being a conservation educator. And I worked with a fellow there by the name of Herm Weisskotten, one of my early mentors, just a beautiful man. And he was a spark for me. That place was a spark for me. He was a wildlife biologist with the DEC, and in his later years, they put him at this education center to finish up his career, and he was just an incredible individual.
What was his name?
Herm Weisskotten.
Okay.
I would go hunting with Herm. He introduced me to hunting.
Yeah.
He was a Long Island boy,
Sure.
walking around the
You did too much
forest
hunting there,
with a
though.
16-gauge shotgun, learning. But what I came to appreciate was, through the hunting process, I learned so much about wildlife and wildlife ecology, and so appreciated those times with Herm in those early years. And then from there, my second internship took me into another place of passion, which are cultural perceptions of the natural world. I was always intrigued with our native populations, with indigenous peoples around the world. And I went to work at a tiny little reservation, the Santee Sioux Reservation in Nebraska.
Wow.
I wrote to 90 different reservations. My college advisor thought I was nuts, but I wanted to work on a reservation. And I got accepted by around 8 or 10 of them. And, well, I've always taken the tricky path. So I took what seemed to me to be the most difficult assignment. And that's where I went. I was the only white person on the reservation. There were 400 people living there. And they gave me, there's a tiny little school there, and they gave me their science program to teach for everyone, elementary through 6th grade.
Oh, wow.
And so I taught the science curriculum at this school all day. And then all evening, I went to the little tiny community center they had there and did sports with the kids.
Oh, cool.
So I did everything from basketball, weightlifting, wrestling. I did all kinds of things with them. And that's what I did.
Did you have any training in any of those things? You just figured it out?
I figured it out. Yeah, I figured it out. And
So this was in the 70s, right?
this is in the 70s is correct.
Okay.
It's actually the same time that AIM was flourishing, the
Oh,
American Indian
AOL
movement.
Instant Messenger. Oh,
American Indian movement.
oh, okay.
And it was the time of the Black Panthers and the JDL, the Jewish Defense League. It was a time of extreme violence in this country, quite frankly. And there were fatalities when I was on the reservation.
Really?
Wow.
Yes. The nearest town was about 20 miles away. I never went into town. I stayed on the reservation the whole time. And it did take quite a long while for the community there to understand why I was there and what I was doing.
Sure.
The kids gravitated to me, fortunately, and that was the way that my role there evolved with the kids.
How long did you stay?
I was there for about 2.5 months, the other half of the semester. And it was quite an experience. I was the only person of my age on the whole reservation.
So it was young kids and that.
It was young kids, and then people who were running the administration there were in their 30s. And then there were the elders. But it was actually a very tough place to be. but a wondrous place to learn and experience. If my parents knew what life was like there, they never would have let me go.
So how old were you when you were there?
So I was about 20.
Wow.
Wow.
So when you came back from that experience, you still had more time at Cortland to go through?
I had, yes, one more year.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
And then what happened after college?
Well, after college, I had some really nice contacts through my work with the DEC. And I was picked up as an environmental educator with an outfit out of Syracuse who had just opened up a facility. It's called Onondaga Nature Centers. Okay. And they had just opened up a facility in Ithaca called the Cayuga Nature Center.
Oh, yeah, I've been there. I remember. That's right. There's a connection there. Yeah.
Was my first job out of college, and there was nothing there. So I was blessed with having the ability to, along with the director, just the two of us, start a program.
Wow.
And that means we did everything from fix up the facility, which was a residential facility, painting, roofing, doing everything we needed to do, to laying out a trail system and building trails, and then putting a program together and going out and promoting the program to the city of Ithaca. And so I had that opportunity to start from the beginning with something very new. And of course, all I had was my background at the Rogers Center, but at least that was a firm background in terms of the possibilities.
Yeah.
So that was my first job out of school.
So before we turn on the mic today, folks, Sandy was just talking about he had been to the Finger Lakes for a little vacation. Cayuga Nature Center is on Cayuga Lake, which is in the New York State Finger Lakes. Did you go back to the Nature Center?
I did not. Not on this trip, but I have with other trips in the past, just to see how the place evolved.
Right. Cortland's on one of the Finger Lakes, right? As well?
Not on the Finger Lakes.
No,
but in the central New York region there, about 30 miles south of Syracuse.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
so
where
folks,
Cortland is.
If you ever find yourself in the Finger Lakes region, check out the Cayuga Nature Center. They have an amazing 4-story treehouse now. Treetops, they call it. All right, so after Cayuga Nature Center?
So I was there for a year, and then my funding ran out. It's kind of hard to believe because my first 6 months I was making $25 a week.
Oh my God.
The next 6 months they doubled my salary, and I was making $50 a week, which was just fine for me. I quite frankly did not care. I had a place to live, and they fed me as well.
Oh, wow.
And so I was just living there as a family with the director and his wife and their son. And it was also a terrific experience. But when my funding did run out, and they left him there by himself as a result, and he didn't last there very long. His name was Michael, sadly. The Rogers Center picked me right up. So I literally had my last day in Ithaca at that center, and I drove to the Rogers Center in Sherburne, and I picked up a part-time position as a conservation educator, and I was there for a while. Funding ran out. I was seasonal, and they shipped me to a brand new environmental center that the DEC was running called the Stony Kill Environmental Center, Poughkeepsie, Fishkill, that area. And I was the only one there.
You're used to working by yourself or in very small groups.
They sent me there to, once again, develop a program. So at least I had the Rogers Center and I had the Cayuga Nature Center behind me. So as a young guy, I went to Stony Kill, and once again, I just started developing trails and developing program and promoting program to the city in that area, and got things going in that regard. And gradually the DEC started hiring more people, over time. But while I was at Stony Kill, I got a phone call from this guy, Hank Dewey, who you know,
I know Hank.
a longtime teacher in the Williamsville School District,
Near Buffalo.
a dear friend of ours. He was on the board of the Tiff Farm Nature Center that had just come into existence as a nonprofit entity.
And this was mid-70s?
This was about 77 or so, I believe. I came right after the big storm, actually.
Oh, after the blizzard, 77.
So Hank gets me on the phone and he said, we'd like to have you for an interview for this job as the director of education at the Tiff Nature Preserve. And I said, who are you and how did you get my name? And apparently friends in the DEC had been contacted by the Tiff people, and they sent my name along because, remember, I was still seasonal with the DEC. There were no tests back then.
Right.
And they were just moving me from one facility to another.
Right.
But
I seems like they were trying to get rid of you.
No.
You take this guy.
I loved the DEC. They gave me a truck, and I loved my patches, and I could scare people when I was on the road if they were throwing things out of their car, littering.
Right.
And so, but no, I really loved my time with the DEC. And as a matter of fact, I went to the regional director once they had offered me the position in Buffalo. And I said, listen, I have an opportunity here. I'd like to stay with the DEC. What's permanent that's around? And the regional director said, we'd love to keep you, but we have nothing. And this sounds like an interesting opportunity for you. Mm-hmm. So for me, I felt like, okay, I'll take a year and do the urban environment thing in Buffalo, just to get that under my belt. Mm-hmm. And of course, here I am 40 some odd years later, and I'm still here. Yeah. But I took that position with Tift and learned so much in that process. But again, remember, it was brand new. Mm-hmm. So they just allowed me to develop a program, eventually hiring staff, including my buddy Herb, who started working with me there.
Oh, you guys met each other
at Tift. Herb was an intern from graduate school at UB. And after his internship was done, we hired him full-time. And I was there at Tift for 3 years, I believe. And then it was time to move on. And
before we move on, though, were you guys the ones that started the nettle and cottonwood program that they have?
No.
All of the nettles and cottonwoods there.
Surely that was a program, because that couldn't have been my mistake, right?
No. We made all the trails. We built the cabin and developed the program, and that's what we did at Tift. And
so
cool.
Just to give the listeners background, so Tift Nature Preserve is still there in Buffalo now, all those years later. Now it's run by the Buffalo Museum of Science.
Correct.
And have we done an episode there? I feel like we must have.
We did a birdathon episode partly there.
Oh, okay.
But
that's it?
I don't know if we've done anything else.
Yeah, but a friend of the podcast, Zach Goodrich, he's their ecologist, I think, now. That may not be his exact, but that's his, basically, his job is to try and mitigate all of the invasive species. Because this is an urban nature center surrounded by the urban landscape, and it's just lots of buckthorn and nettles.
Yeah. And, when I think of Tift, I think of single age cottonwood.
Yeah. But it's amazing if you go there now. Have you been to Tift recently?
No.
Because the amount of work that they have put in, the thousands and thousands of plantings, I mean, it's kind of mind-boggling just to walk through there and see how much work they have done. Oh,
whatever they're doing with the wetland in there seems really involved.
Yeah.
Like they have all that lattice work, and I've never talked to anyone about what's going on.
They have a deer exposure now, just thousands of plantings, tree tubes, like as far as you can see. It's an amazing program that they've instituted to try to kind of reclaim and bring back more native plants and
Sure,
push out the
sure.
invasives.
And we do, through our program at UB, provide them with interns virtually every semester
Well, that's probably what they're doing.
to both Zach as well as their education program with Kimberly,
Right, yeah.
with both. So, I'm still tied into TIFT in that way.
When you were at TIFT, was Wayne Gall there at that time?
He came right after I left.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so again, folks, Wayne Gall has been on the podcast. Longtime listeners will recognize his name.
Tick episodes and
Yeah.
winter
insect
episode.
Yeah, very good. So again, it's just interesting to see these connections between the people in the environmental community here. Yeah.
So, just to finish the story then, when we left TIFT, Herb and I, that's when we formed Earth Spirit. And it was not a big stretch, right? Because for me, I had gone through the beginnings in Ithaca and at Stony Kill and at Buffalo. So I was very comfortable. And of course, we had many contacts in Buffalo at that point. And many of them came with us because that's who they knew, Herb and Sandy. So when Earth Spirit was formed, it was a nice, gentle transition.
And when you guys formed Earth Spirit, did you have a sense of what you wanted it to become? Did you want it to be your full-time jobs, or was it always going to be something you did besides your main career?
Well, for me, it was more full-time than Herb. I was an adjunct at UB, so I was doing courses.
So you started doing that while you were at TIFT?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they came to me and needed someone to do a field ecology class
Oh, I bet you jumped at
in
that.
like
Huh?
79. And so I was doing that already.
He said, let me get my bell bottoms, I'm coming.
I'm coming. I never wore bell bottoms, Bill. The way you see me now is the way I've dressed my whole life. Whether I'm whether I'm going into the field or whether I'm going out in the evening, I always look the same.
Now, I do have to say, Herb did show me a picture of you one time where you had long curly hair and you had on a striped tank top and the smallest, tightest pair of shorts I've ever seen.
College, okay? College.
Okay.
No,
Things were different then.
just really quick. So I know you have an undergraduate degree in education, right? But then you also have a master's degree in outdoor education, or?
Right. So my undergrad degree out of Cortland is through the recreation department with specialization in outdoor education. That's what my degree is in, undergrad.
And that's when you were doing all the internships, right?
Correct.
Okay.
At UB, I connected with a professor there through the New York State Outdoor Ed Association, Herb Foster. He was
A different
involved.
Herb.
Yes, a different Herb.
Okay.
In the Department of Learning, and his graduate program was in urban and environmental education. And that's the graduate program I became involved with back then. So in the early times in Buffalo, because I was taking on interns from UB, I was able to do courses for free.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
And
so it was after you started Earth Spirit?
It was during the period when I was at TIFT.
Oh, okay.
When I started that. That is correct. And I finished graduate work in 80. So by the time Earth Spirit began, then I had my graduate degree. So it is a graduate degree in education, and it is in urban and environmental education, which no longer exists, just so that you know.
That program.
When
Speaking
Herb
of-
Foster left UB, that program disappeared with him.
Probably not interesting to the audience, but I'm interested. Does the Environmental Studies Department still exist, or did that become the sustainability or
No,
is?
it doesn't. And this is a really, really good thing that happened about 8 years ago. When UB decided, through a new dean at the College of Arts and Sciences, Robin Schulze, the new dean said when she came in, how could we not have an environmental department?
Right.
So environmental studies was a part of IDP, interdisciplinary degree programs. Environmental science was a part of the geology program. We both operated separately within the context of those other programs and departments. When our new dean came in and began this process, the idea was to combine environmental studies and environmental science under the umbrella of the Department of Environment and Sustainability.
Yeah.
So when I was doing this by myself since the 90s, environmental studies in IDP as the coordinator, I would have probably anywhere from around 60 to 90 students in the program. And, you know, I took care of their advisement. I did the coursework. I did the internship work.
All while teaching, too.
All while teaching, yeah. And once our new department was formed, we have upwards of 300 students in the department. Environmental studies is probably about 240 or so. And environmental science, we add on almost another 100. And so our department now took in both of those programs. And we've grown incredibly with wonderful professors that have been hired in both the natural sciences and the social sciences, dealing with environmental work and dealing with sustainability work. And I'm very, very happy to be a part of that program.
So I want to back you up a little bit, because we were talking about when you formed Earth Spirit, you had in your head that it was going to be more of a full-time gig for you, right?
That's right. So I was doing that more full-time, and the adjunct was giving me a little bit of a financial base.
Okay.
Herb had a full-time job teaching at night through UB. And so it was a little easier for him financially in that regard.
Sure.
But, you know, through the early years, it was just a matter of Herb and I put in the money to pay the bills. If we made some money, great. We got a little money out of it.
Yeah.
But, you know, it was never a money thing for us. It still isn't for me. I've never been an employee of Earth Spirit to this day.
Nobody gets into nature education to make money, right?
Yeah, well, I didn't, and I didn't care.
Right. The one thing, when people ask me, you know, what is Earth Spirit? They try to get a sense of what it is and what you do. Like what I tell them, and tell me if my perception is wrong, but so many groups like the DEC or TIFT, people that do nature education, they do wonderful work. They get people out into nature. And I feel that a lot of what they teach is getting people to know what's out there, what's happening out there. Whereas I feel Earth Spirit is unique here in Western New York because it actively tries to develop a deeper connection. And I don't want to use the word spiritual because that is such a weighted term for a lot of people, but for lack of a better term, it's to make you aware of your connection to something larger than yourself. And I feel that Earth Spirit is the one environmental education group that kind of reaches to the audience more in that respect and trying to form a deeper connection rather than just come out in the woods, we're going to tell you what's out there. We want to help build a relationship between you and what's out there. So,
you know, it really comes down, and you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
That has always been our mission. And it's really very simply the difference between fostering respect and creating reverence. And that's exactly what you're saying when you speak of a spiritual connection. But it's something we've always done very, very gently, obviously.
oh yeah.
But it's the way we have always seen the world, and it's the way we have always participated with the world. And it's that kind of connection that we share through our work. It's a connection of thanksgiving, and it's at the heart of everything we've ever done. For many years, we did programs called Holistic Ecology. We traveled the country doing workshops.
Were those the Earth Views?
That's right.
Yeah.
We did seminars called Earth Views Gatherings for 9 or 10 years. And now remember, this is the New Age time, fellas. All right?
Right.
So in these New Agey times, we would gather together for weekends, everyone from, native teachers to Wiccan teachers to crystal healers to Hawaiian kahunas
Wow.
to Hindu
I would
priests.
have loved to have been there. Just
We had the head druid from England coming to our Earth Views gatherings on a regular basis. He loved coming here. And so we had these practitioners from all over the world, quite frankly, coming in and sharing with others their views of the earth and their relationship to the earth. And really, for Herb and myself, it was our way of sneaking in our holistic ecology perspectives amidst all of these cultural perspectives. And that's why we did it. And we loved those workshops.
So why did those stop?
I guess we just, after 9 or 10 years, the world shifted. We shifted. And things changed. And our priorities changed. We did go on the road with 2 native practitioners, 2 native teachers for quite a while. One was an elder, Twyla Nitch from the Cattaraugus Reservation, and our dear friend Amy Lee, who is Mohawk. And so with the 2 ladies and Herb and myself, we build ourselves as native and naturalist perspectives. But we always had a connection to the native ways. Right. I always have had that and have always appreciated, that culture. And we've shared lessons with that culture in our Earth Spirit programs. Right. We call historic survival. You yourself have taught that program.
I have.
Many times.
And that, as you're talking, it brought up a question in my head because, folks, I worked for Earth Spirit, as we talked about at the beginning of the episode. For, 3 or 4 years, I worked part-time for you in the late 90s, mid to late 90s. And then you and Herb helped arrange for me to get my first real job at Beaver Meadow at the Audubon Center. And when I did that, I brought with me a lot of what I learned at Earth Spirit. So we started doing Native American historical programs where we would go into schools very much like Earth Spirit did. Because here in New York State, part of our social studies curriculum in the 4th grade is learning about the Iroquois that were here and are here. So we did a lot of that. The maple sugaring work that you guys had done, including the Native American perspective on that, I brought that to the programs at Beaver Meadow. And then after I left there, a friend of ours, Mark Cara, became a naturalist there, and he was doing those programs. And at a certain point, their director of education had Mark stop doing those programs. Did you know about this?
Yes.
And her perspective was that someone who's not Native American shouldn't be sharing those programs. And I would just be interested to hear your take. How would you have addressed her concerns?
I would simply have shared with her that the programs we have always done, first of all, often included Native teachers. We used to do programs on the Cattaraugus Reservation with Native teachers called Iroquois Awareness Days. Same with maple sugaring. Our friend Amy Lee, Mohawk, she would do those programs with us. It's always special to have someone from that culture sharing from that perspective. When we share from a historic perspective. We don't
claim to be native.
We don't claim to be native. We're not native. We can't speak for native people and have never tried to do so. Even in those early years when we traveled with native people, it was always billed as native and naturalist perspectives. So we always came from that place. We've always known our place in that regard. And what we've done through the years has opened up many eyes to another culture and an appreciation for that culture. We've been doing programs with the Tuscarora Reservation for probably 35 years. So they hire us to teach their kids about nature. And we've been doing that for decades. And when we do programs with them on more than one occasion, their parents have asked me to share Native stories with their kids. And I'm happy to do so. Just as we've done many herbal programs at that community and with Native community. I'll never forget the time where I did a presentation for an herb group in Western New York, because that's always been one of my passions, herbalism. And at the end of the program, a Native woman came up to me and said, "How can you be teaching this? You're not Native." And I said to her, "What makes you think you have to be Native to have an affinity for the wonders of the plant world?" Funny question.
Right?
Yeah.
How could you do this if you're not Native? I said, obviously, you don't need to be so to delve into such fields. But it kind of woke me up, But I was old enough at that point, and now I'm really old enough to be very comfortable in sharing what I can about Native cultures. Because remember, at UB, I teach a class called Science, Religion, and Nature. I talk about shamanistic traditions from all over the world. So I teach about, the Native ways, but I also teach about European sorcery. And we learn about African traditions, and we learn about Eastern traditions, as well as the Western traditions, all giving us a sense for why we see the world as we do and why we interact with that world as we do. That course and that work with cultural groups and perceptions has always been a very important part of my life.
That's the one course I never got to take.
I was about to say the same thing. I wish I could.
It's definitely an eye-opening experience, because what do young people know today about other traditions? Nothing.
Yeah, very
Nothing.
little.
But that took me back to, yes, reading the Bible, the Old Testament, the New Testament, reading the Quran, reading the ancient Hindu texts, reading the lessons of Buddha, experiencing the rituals of shamanistic traditions around the world. This is what has given me a foundation of perceiving and interacting with that world.
Especially how it relates to the natural world.
Yeah, and I'm pretty eclectic in that regard. So, you can't really put me into a system or a tradition, because I kind of take the best from all and jumble it all up, and it becomes me.
Not to bring politics into it, or a political figure anyway, but when you were talking about, people questioning why you were talking about what you're talking about when you're not Native, that reminds me of when, do you know Reza Aslan? No, I think that's his name. He wrote like an historical account of Jesus at one point, so he was making the rounds on all these different news shows. And I think one of the most popular clips from it is him on maybe Fox, where they're like, why are you talking about Christianity? They're like, you're like a Muslim man, you're this, and he's like, I'm a scholar. Specifically, I got my degree in Christian, religion, that's all he did was like Christian religious studies and things like that. He's like, this is literally my bread and butter. This is what I study, and that's why I write about it. And I just remember the interview kind of going in the same circle over and over again. And they're like, yeah, but why is a Muslim man writing about Christianity and Jesus? And he's like, because I'm an academic, and this is what I've studied.
It's my field.
Yeah. And it just wasn't getting through. But
yeah. You mentioned eye-opening experiences. One thing that we wanted to make sure we did today was give the audience a little taste of what it's like to be on the trail with you. So we've been standing here for quite a while, just inside the trail. This is usually about as far as you make it into the woods with Sandy. But could we take a little walk and just pretend that the audience and us are, you're taking us on a hike, and just give us a sense of what it's like to be in the woods with you.
Of course.
Yeah. Can I give my favorite Sandy moment, like sighting?
Sure.
So it's because he tricked us. It was good. So we were out with the field ecology class, and he's like, now I want everyone to look up, and you'll see that there's a bird like way up in the sky. It's like, now can everyone see the little black ring that's around its bill? And the class is just like, yeah, I see that. And he's like, well, I don't know how you can see that because it's way too far away. But that is a ring-billed gull. And it was made everyone feel like a fool, But
I wouldn't want you to feel like a fool.
No, it was funny.
The notion is, if you know, you can see beyond what others can see.
Yeah.
That's the lesson. Don't feel foolish.
No.
It's a good lesson.
It was one of my favorite moments, so it was good. We learned a lot about it in that moment, so.
Okay, well, right now, we are in a little plantation. An old plantation. Red pine, Norway spruce. And, when we find ourselves in forests like this in our area, they're not natural. They have been planted, both the pine and the spruce. To find these trees naturally occurring, we can find red pine, but we have to go up to the North Country. And that's where we see them growing naturally. The spruce, we don't have the spruce down here growing naturally. So when we see Norway spruce or other spruce, they're planted ornamentally. So at this area, the dominant forest is the northern hardwood forest, which we'll be walking in as we cross this field up ahead. But this is a very different type of world. It's a different forest. Here, these are transitional species. The pine, the spruce, which simply means they're planted in order to reforest the area quickly. And the county does this, the state does this, the feds do this, to reclaim lands, usually old farmlands. These trees grow quickly, and then the idea usually is to manage them along the way, which usually doesn't happen. And so gradually over time, these shade intolerant species get overwhelmed, and we can see it happening here with ash and maple and no doubt cherries and others.
I love what's happening right here, by the way, with this maple.
Yes.
It's like snaking up the pine.
Sure is.
Yeah.
And they will top the pines, and gradually after 70 or 80 years or so, they will shade out the pines and spruce, and they will go into decline. And the native hardwoods will take over. I mean, that's the idea with plantations, basically. You plant them, you reforest, and then you manage and use the wood along the way, and then you allow the native hardwoods to seed in on their own, and they gradually take over, and they evolve into a northern hardwood forest. So that's what we're standing in here. And we can see the intrusion is significant with the hardwoods. We call the broadleaf trees hardwoods, and the coniferous trees, those with cones, we call them softwoods. And the hardwoods are now gradually taking over, as we can see. So this is a forest in transition. You can see all the needles on the forest floor, creating a very acidic soil along the way. Decomposition is quite slow, because bacteria don't love to be in acidic soils. And these are systems that have generally just two levels, what we call forest physiognomy. Has a canopy, and then it has a sparse herb layer. The forest we're going to be going into has 4 levels in comparison. Canopy, subcanopy, shrub, herb. So the forests are very different. And it's good to appreciate those differences because the life will also be different. Both plant life and animal life, rather sparse in these plantations, but much more plentiful as we move into the northern hardwood forest. So that's just a brief overview. So my question to both of you is, where do these conifer forests take over from the northern hardwood forest? That's my question to you.
As we move north up into getting towards the boreal forest.
Thinner,
Exactly.
worse soils.
Exactly. So it's the soils getting thinner, less fertile, wetter, and as you climb in elevation up in the North Country, usually up to about 2,500 feet, the hardwoods drop out. They drop out, and the conifers flourish. And then we're in the boreal zone, which stretches from Alaska across Canada, dipping down into the Great Lakes, out through New England, covering 25% of North America, making it the largest vegetative type in North America. But that's what you need to do to get into the boreal forest. You need to head north. And at the lower level of the boreal forest, those areas are broken with ponds and lakes and bogs. Very, very different environment. And then there's a transition in between. So when we go up into the Adirondacks, our northern hardwood forest, characterized by sugar maple and beech, yellow birch, eastern hemlock, also have mixed in red spruce and balsam fir. It's kind of a transitional or a different designation of a forest. So here we have a spruce fir northern hardwood forest, which then evolves into the boreal zone. So it's a fascinating thing to appreciate, and it's an important thing to acknowledge when you're experiencing these different types of forests. And we can experience 3 different types of forests here at this place. That's why it's a good place for this kind of work.
And I know Sandy's itching to explore some of those other places, but we are over an hour, Sandy, so we are actually going to have to start wrapping up.
Wait. We could continue on. Why not? I don't know. Just do a long one. Do a part 2.
All right. So I guess we're continuing on. Hi, folks. Bill Michalek here. Just wanted to wrap this one up by letting you know we'll be back with part 2 in just a couple weeks. And you'll get to hear more of what it's like to take a walk with Sandy. And we'll do our usual wrap-up following that episode. So, we hope you enjoyed getting to meet Sandy. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.